Welcome everyone, we're excited to share some country wisdom with you.
King Solomon had a thing or two to say about the path to wisdom. In Proverbs 4, he wrote, "Let your eyes look directly forward and your gaze be straight before you. Keep straight the path of your feet, and all your ways will be sure."
Join us now for Country Wisdom. You wave goodbye to your husband, you see your dad, and you can't figure out what's going on. The bus leaves. Now what's the next thing that happens? You're on the bus heading on a tourist vacation.
I think everything with that excursion was miracle after miracle. But when we went to in Bulgaria, because Romania was here, Bulgaria was the next, and next was Turkey. The guide just realized that none of us had passports because they didn't want to give us passports. We just had a list with names. And you know, in Bulgaria I was working with the list because it was communist country. But when we went in Turkey, Turkey was a democratic country and they expect us to have passports. And none of us had passports. Then we've been waiting, how many hours, Mommy? Maybe 8 hours.
Hours, yeah.
To the
Border.
to receive the okay. But the guide came to us and said, probably we have to return back to Romania. That was a very hard moment for us because we were thinking we went through all this and now all our hopes, they were gone. Then we've been praying and said, Lord, you can do a miracle. You can do something, you know, for us. And after about 8 hours, long time, the guide came and he said, they let us go in the country, in Turkey.
At the border, before we even went, you know, through Turkey, which was a miracle after miracle. Another miracle that God did was when we were actually waiting at the border in Romania, and we saw the militiamen actually going through every single piece of luggage. And I remember, you know, these were armed men, they were going through the luggage, and all I could think of was what was going to happen if they discovered the
camera.
The camera and the Deutschmarks in the camera. And they were literally just emptying, you know, the luggage of the people and just making a mess of everything, you know, sometimes on the pavement. And when our turn came, I remember that they barely looked inside. And it was at that moment that I realized, wow, God, you are with us. You haven't, you know, you are with us, because these people just, they barely looked inside in one bag, because we had two. In one bag, they barely looked and they said, okay, thank you. You know, well, you're good to go. And so I think no one could have possibly imagined that a mom with a 14-year-old would even possibly think of defecting. But I saw God's covering through that process. But then right before the bus left, once again, these militiamen came up. And like my dad said, you know, there were informants in the bus. They knew exactly what to look for. And they watched this man, and this man didn't have any luggage with him. He only had a bag, you know, that was, you know, on his shoulders. And so as we were ready to leave, we thought we were done. The men stormed the bus again, and they pulled that young man off the bus for us to never see him again.
So your heart is just
so
going like this.
So our heart is pounding, and we're thinking, sure enough, what my dad said is true.
They arrested him.
They arrested him right away, yeah. And then arriving in Turkey, feeling like we're going to have to be doubling up with a stranger that we've never met before, where we can't discuss anything, seeing informants literally parked at, you know, every other or maybe 2 or 3 doors down the, you know, from us. And I'm thinking, how in the world are we going to make it? How are we going to be able to separate ourselves from the group? How is this going to happen? And just the bathroom with the water running was our safe haven, literally. And that's where Mom and I would just talk very little, because we didn't know, is there a camera here too? Is there something? Is there somewhere that they are listening to us as well? And so, and then yet, you know, through the process, we were supposed to go to the Bazaar, I think the second day, and everyone got sick. Everyone got sick with a stomach virus. And so they changed the plan. And even in that process, just thinking about that, they changed the plan. So the Bazaar, which meant that everyone was free to go and spread and go shopping and look for stuff and then meet again. That trip then was postponed to the last day, being in Turkey. And little did we realize that if that would have been the second day, they would have had one more day to search for us, should we be able to actually separate ourselves from the group. And then God switched the whole process, their plan. It switched the plan. Everybody got sick, but funny thing, we didn't get sick.
Amen.
We did not have a stomach,
Amen.
virus. We were fine. At the same time, though, that evening, I remember that the guide, right, the tour guide mom, she asked us, can we join you at your table? And remember what she said to you? Yeah. And she was just...
she said, I am so glad that nobody is defecting in this group. And Esperanza was by me, and I
stepped on my foot.
Stepped on her foot, not to have any reactions somehow.
Yeah. So the plan is formulating. So finally, my mom is telling me what we're going to do. She said, okay, tomorrow we're going to the Bazaar. And I thought, okay, well, let's just, because we had a big piece of luggage and then a smaller, little handbag, duffel bag. And I thought, okay, well, let's just put my clothes in that duffel bag. And I started to do that. And Mom said, what are you doing? And I said, well, we're going to put the clothes in the duffel bag. My clothes. She said, we can't put any of your clothes in the duffel bag. And I'm thinking, I'm 14. What do you mean we can't put my clothes in the bag? What does that mean? And so Mom said, you understand, we are going to separate ourselves from the group. If anybody finds this bag, she said, they will immediately, that will be a giveaway, a dead giveaway that we are trying to defect. She said, the only thing we can take is the camera and the Deutschmarks inside. That's all we can take. So I had one little summer dress on me and Mom, the clothes on her back. And so I realized at that point that that's all we could take, and the camera and the Deutschmarks. And the thought was that she said, okay, we're going to go to the Bazaar. When we watch the entire group leave, we're going to try to separate ourselves from the group, and we're going to get back into a taxi, and we're going to take a taxi to the Austrian embassy, she said. And then we're going to tell them that we want that we want political asylum, and then that we want to be reunited with our family, my aunt and uncle in Austria. And I thought, okay, that's a good plan. And I remember Mom actually writing in Turkish, in Romanian, and translating in a little tiny dictionary in Turkish words: help, escape, political asylum. And so I thought, how in the world are we going to separate ourselves from the group at that point? We actually went into the Bazaar. We were told in the Bazaar that we could have a certain amount of time, and that at 1:30 the group would come together. And there was a tour guide that was a Turkish tour guide, and said, at 1:30 you need to be here. We will wait for you for 30 minutes extra. If you are not here within 30 minutes, we will realize that you wanted to stay here. And those were her words, which was really, really odd. That would come from a Turkish guide. It was not the Romanian guide, it was a Turkish guide. So basically what they were saying is, this is the time frame, you better be here. But if you're not here, we understand what happened. And so that was strange, I remember that. And then Dr. Dinescu, the same lady that we were supposed to actually be in the room with, she would want to be together with us, and she just said, well, we're going to stick together, and I thought, oh, God have mercy, how are we going to get away from this lady? And so I remember that we went into a store, right?
We went to a store, but we told her we have to go to pharmacy to get some pills because everybody was sick. Then we didn't say we are sick, but we say we have to buy something. Then
So somehow or other we were able to separate from her, and we actually entered into the bazaar. And the bazaar, if any one of you have been in Turkey, it's a metropolis, and so the bazaar is literally a city under the city. It's incredible. And so they told us that we needed to remember what gate we were entering so that we can actually go back through the same gate, because if not, you can end up in a different side of the city. And so it was huge, and the noises and the music and the, you know, it was just such an incredible, you know, stimulation of the eyes. I mean, I had never seen such an incredible place like the bazaar. You know, all kinds of things for sale, people trying to get you into their stores to buy all kinds of things. And I thought, oh my goodness, how are we going to make it back? And my mom said, we have to watch for every person on this trip to pass us through, and we have to remember where we're at so that we can exit back. And then, and as we were entering into the gate, I remember seeing a sea of taxis, and you said to me, this, you know, you just kind of nodded, like this is what we need to come back to. This is where we're going to grab a taxi from. And so, remember? And then you insisted that I would get a pair of sandals. And I thought, I don't need a pair of sandals. You know, I'm okay. And you said, but we need to get you a pair of sandals. And I'm thinking, you know, when my mom says we need to get you a pair of sandals at 14 in Romania, you do what mom says. So we went and we got a pair of sandals. And right?
and we met with some people
and
from the group.
as we tried to
no.
make our way back, thinking that we had passed everyone into the group, the tour guide was right in front of us and said, "Where are you going, Mrs. Totpal?"
I hold in my hands a dramatic and engaging book. Let me read you something. He made it, he's alive. With those words, my father dropped the phone, collapsed to the ground, and began crying uncontrollably. Shocked, I stood there, my heart pounding faster and faster. My mind began jumping to frightening conclusions. After what seemed like an eternity, my parents motioned for me to sit down. Scared, I lowered myself to the ground and squeezed in between them. And for the very first time in my life, I heard them whisper to me the incredible plan my family had orchestrated to escape communist Romania to freedom.
When Adriana Passos was just 14, her family became targets of the Romanian secret police. And this book, Hope in Present Danger, tells her incredible story. You can get your copy for a donation of just $14.95 or more at talkingdonkeyinternational.org. That's talkingdonkeyinternational.org.
When we saw the guy there, you know, was very difficult. But I think God again, you know, gave me the presence of the Spirit.
The wisdom.
The wisdom, you know, to be able to answer, you know, because, and was a wonderful thing because I made Speranza to accept to buy those sandals because we show it to her, you know, and we went to the pharmacy, right? We decided to go to the pharmacy, you know, because everybody knew that was a situation, but we weren't affected. Then in this way, we just went out, and that was the reason how we presented to the guide and said, okay, see you later, you know. We left.
So I think that for me, I remember that when I saw her, I felt like my feet just stepped into, you know, into glue. Because I thought, what are we going to say? And it was those sandals. You said to her, Mom, you said, oh, look at the sandals that I just got for my daughter. We want to go back to the same store, and it's around the corner if you want to check it out. It's an amazing space, and we just wanted to look at something else again. And then we went to, you know, and in addition to that, we need to go and find a pharmacy. And so it was that kind of an answer. But I remember my heart just getting ready to come out of my chest because I knew that what we really wanted to do was actually move further, closer to the gate. And I think the fear also, Mom, you know, being into that bazaar and the sounds and the smells and the you know, the sight was just so overwhelming. People trying to get you into their stores And then I think for me, it was the fear, if we get lost here, we will never know how to get out. What are we going to do? How are we going to get out? As we stepped, into the light, as I remember, there's the Bazaar, it was dark.
Yeah.
And so stepping into that light, it was almost like, we could take a breath at that moment to know that, wow, there's one more step and maybe one more step and one more step that will get us closer to freedom. And getting into that taxi was the first taxi that we saw. And as the taxi, I remember you giving him this little piece of paper that you had written,
Yeah.
in Turkish. We want to go to the Austrian embassy, political asylum. And so the taxi going around and around and around, I thought, what is he doing? Is he lost, or does he just want to take our money? Is he going to turn us in? Because Turkey was also renowned in actually turning back refugees or people who were asking for political asylum. That was at least the fear and the word that we had heard in Romania, that we had to be careful with that as well. And so we finally, the taxi finally stopped. And he pointed to us, the Austrian embassy. He was lost. He didn't know exactly what that was. And so he finally stopped. We paid him, Mom paid him. And then we got to the Austrian embassy. And when I saw the plaque of the Austrian embassy, I thought, here we are. We made it. We made it. So the anticipation of, wow, we're free. We made it. So we made our way up, to the second floor of the Austrian embassy, and with my little German, tried to explain and asked for us to speak to the consul. And so they said, do you have an appointment? I'm like, no, we don't have an appointment. We don't have an appointment. We just dropped in, literally. Just dropped in. And
We want political asylum.
the woman said to us, she looked at us, she said, I'm so sorry. The consul cannot see you. And we said to her, we said, well, we're from Romania and on excursion, we're seeking political asylum due to the religious persecution. So here we were thinking we had just made it to freedom, just to be told there is nothing we can do. We cannot help you. And I remember looking at Mom and Mom looking at me, and I'm thinking, what now? Here we were in a metropolis, not knowing a soul, not speaking the language, two women in a Muslim country. Mom 34, I'm 14. Where do we go? What do we do? Where are we? What is happening now? And I remember sitting down right on a ledge of a fence, right in front of the Austrian embassy, and just for I don't even know how long, just sitting quietly. We didn't know what to say. We didn't know what to say. We were so confused. We were so scared. And I remember finally, Mom, you said, maybe the bus will pass by here. And I thought, what? Maybe the bus will pass by here and we can go back home. And I'm like, there's no home. We can't go back. We have to go forward. There is no way back. And as Mom said that, I saw what it looked like, a man in uniform. We didn't know what he was, but it was somebody in uniform. It was in a blue uniform with a cap and a gold tassel, I remember. And I just thought, well, maybe he can help us. I don't speak the language. I don't know. We had to cross the street. He was across the street. And I remember I said, Mom, let's go. Let's just go. Let's talk to this man. Maybe he can help us. And so I remember
You spoke in French.
Crossing the street and approaching this man and trying to speak to him in French. He doesn't understand me because he doesn't speak French. But I did say political asylum. I said, asile politique in French. And so he looked at us and he said, come with me in Turkish. And he just motioned to us because I couldn't understand what he was saying. He didn't understand what I was saying, but he figured two women in a Muslim country, clearly we were not from there. Clearly we were lost. Clearly we were helpless. I don't know what our faces must have looked like. I don't know what the fear, he probably read the fear in our faces. And so he took us around. We didn't realize that around the corner, there was actually a police station. And so we tried to explain to them. They asked us if we spoke English. We didn't. They asked if we spoke German, very little. But I told them French. I speak French. And so they motioned us to follow them, now 3 men coming with us. And then
That
they
was a
took
scary moment.
they took us, right? They took us to a place, and it was you know, several blocks away, and it was a building, and the building had steps going subterraneously down underneath the ground. And so I remember just they motioned us to go down, to follow them. 3 men, Mom and I, in subterraneous steps, you know, just going down into where it looked like an opening of a door. And I'm like, what
Da
are they
fum de
going to
cigarra.
do to us? What are they going to do with us, to us? And so one
Just
of them,
men.
just men,
Just men.
no women, no women. And so all of a sudden, I remember one of them entered and brought back a woman from that place. I don't know if it was a restaurant, if it was a hotel, I do not know what that place was to this day. And this woman came and she started speaking French to me, and she asked me, you know, tell me what you need. And so we told them we were in a trip, in an excursion from Romania. We had suffered we wanted political asylum. We were requesting political asylum. We had separated from the group. We were by ourselves, and that, you know, we had suffered religious persecution and we needed help. And so she translated to the police. And the police said, okay, we will help them. Tell them we will help them. And so I remember they said, she translated to us, she said, they'll put you in a police car. They cannot process you here. This is a small police station. They have to take you to the big police station. But I just looked at Mom, and Mom looked so terrified. And finally, I remember there was a phone, they made several phone calls trying to ask for our identity, couldn't figure it out, couldn't figure out how they can literally help us. Finally, they got someone on the phone that spoke Romanian, and Mom spoke, and they clarified certain things. And at that point, they said, okay, Mom, what did you think when you had that man on the phone? What did you think? Who did you think you were talking to?
I really believed was Romanian ambassador.
And what was your biggest fear at that point?
That we have to go back.
So after that conversation, they finally were able to just then take us from there, and they basically said, they motioned to us to follow them, and so we followed them, and they opened a big van, and the van opened, and I remember that there was white sheets on the seats of the van, and there was a little light just dangling. It looked, you know, like an Alfred Hitchcock movie. We got in, we had our little duffel bag, the orange duffel bag, and the door slammed shut behind us. We didn't know where they were going to take us. They didn't tell us. We had no idea what the next step was. And when that door slammed shut, it felt so dark. And then we just heard footsteps around the van, men talking again, and we didn't know where we were going to be taken. And so the trip continued on for what seemed like a very long time, through very uneven terrain. We were wondering, where are they taking us? What are they going to do to us, remember? And I remember just clinging onto you and saying, Mom, it's so dark in here.
And you said, Mommy, they're gonna kill us? I said, no. I said, definitely not. God is with us. This is what I told her, because I realized, you know, her fear. But I was scared also, because I said, you know, why we have to be in a closed van like this? You know, I didn't realize.
There were no windows. The
No
only thing,
windows
and I remember
at
you
all.
telling me there was a little grill in the corner of that van. And I remember Mom saying to me, she said, I want you to focus. She said, look there. She said, there's a little bit of light that you can see through that grill. She said, if you can just focus on the light, the darkness will disappear. Just focus on the light, honey. Just focus on the light. And I remember the leitmotif. It was just constantly the refrain that Mom would say, God is with us. God is with us. He promised He won't leave us. He promised He won't leave us. Don't fear. Don't fear. God is with us. And then after what seemed like an internal trip,
That was
we heard
a terrible noise. I really figured, I thought this is a prison. Definitely, you know, the way how you read, you know, in stories like, you know, I said, what is this? This doesn't sound like embassy or something, you know, this is like a prison. And the chauffeur, the driver came.
No,
opened the
well,
doors.
we heard the sound of those gates opening. So it was like the sound reverberating, like
Yeah.
boom, 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 you know, and then the car moving inside, whatever this was, and then the sound of the gates shutting behind us.
Yeah.
Again, boom, boom, just reverberating sound. And it was at that point that I told Mom, I said, they're gonna kill us. I said, we're gonna be in prison, they're gonna kill us here. And then after that, the van stopped.
Yeah.
And then what happened, Mom?
Then he came, the chauffeur, he came, the driver, he opened the door, and never I would forget that gentleman which came in front of the door, open. He was smiling and he said, "You're welcome, Mrs. You are an American soil."
Wow.
And I saw in the corner of the room American flag. And he realized how scared we were. Because he said, please don't fear, you know. You don't have any reason to be scared, you know, you are an American soil.
Eram cu altă lume, nu știam. Am sosit seara în Los Angeles
And we arrived in LAX
cu
in the
avionul.
evening.
Și când am văzut luminile
When
alea
I
și
saw
orașul ăla
all
mare,
the lights and all the beauty of that
am
huge
zis că
place,
aici e America.
I thought, this is America. This is America.
Dar când am ajuns acasă, a fost masă pus. Când am ieșit din avion și am văzut pe amândouă și eu cu fetița. O bucurie neexpusă, ceva, nu mă interesa nimic. A fost o bucurie care nu pot să o uit niciodată.
Amen. Amen.
More than that.
Folks, this is an incredible book, Hope in Present Danger. You've only heard a little bit of the story today. Believe me, just a little bit of it. You need to get this book. You can go to talkingdonkeyinternational.org and get your own copy. Adriana is a great writer. It's an incredible story. Get it today. Folks, I just can't tell you how happy we are that you came here today to meet with us. Really, they had a barn, but it's, you know, everything's going on, the lawnmowers, everything's happening, you know. But God got us through this. He got you through it. And that's what we want our viewers to understand, is how incredible our God really is.
Your story in person, I love the book, but hearing it from you in person has just been incredible. I'm so
Amen.
glad you
Amen.
shared.
Thank you all. You're great Americans. That's what's so great.
Sorry we were
God
late.
bless you guys.
Thank you
May
very
the
much.
Lord
God
bless you.
Thank you for watching. Join us again for another exciting Country Wisdom.
See you next time.